kids need high school sports and coaches more than they've ever needed them in their lives.
Yes, sir.
On today's Find the Balance Friday edition of the Odd Coaches podcast, Dr. Adams and Coach Francis interview Bruce Kelley, head coach of the Bullis School in Potomac, Maryland. Coach Kelley shares his memories of the late, great Coach Bob Brown, a longtime basketball coach and mentor in the Washington, D.C. area. He also gives his thoughts on the current state of high school basketball and college recruiting in this new environment. Welcome to today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Odd Coaches podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today is my tag team partner. I gave you the guy you know, Mike. The Marty Jannetty to my bulldog, Bob Brown from Central States Wrestling. There's going to be a connection, folks. The icon, the showstopper, the main event, and the reason why we are here, Coach Mike Francis. And Coach, how you doing today? It has been a while since we've taped a Find the Balance Friday episode, so I'm very excited about it. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Happy Father's Day to everybody.
Yes, indeed. It's a perfect time to have this because we're going to talk about a guy who was a father figure to a lot of student athletes and coaches. All right. So recently we lost a coaching legend in Bob Brown, and here today to help lead the celebration of his life is his good friend, Bruce Kelley, who is the head coach at the Bullis School in Potomac, Maryland. Bruce in his own right is an outstanding coach, 7-time IAC conference champion, helped the multitude of student athletes continue on to play in college at all levels. And Bruce, I think it's safe to say that I've known you about 20 years, man. And in segment 3, we'll pick your brain about the current state of high school basketball and everything going on with that. But we want to take some time, celebrate a man that truly found a balance between academics and athletics, Coach Bob Brown. So, Bruce, can you introduce our audience to Coach Bob Brown?
Boy, that's a tough segue, Keith. And first, thank you and Mike for having me on. But Bobby Brown is a man who coached for over 40 years at St. Albans and at Bullis. He's the last man that I'm aware of that won the Washington Post Metropolitan Coach of the Year in both basketball and baseball.
Wow.
Won over 30 IAC championships while he was an assistant coach or head coach at St. Albans. And just as you mentioned, Keith, he mentored a lot of people, a lot of boys, a lot of families, and as you mentioned, a lot of coaches. So, you guys like us, we devote our lives to helping kids. And sometimes when we pass, it's just people turn the page. And I'm so glad we're taking this time today to let folks know about Bobby B.
Yeah. And Mike, before I let you chime in, you had mentioned, we're taping this on Father's Day, fans, and fans know we tape on Sundays. It's not a secret, and we're old school taping where we tape a show and then we air them throughout. But behind the scenes, and I hope Bruce, I don't go too far with that, but we try to stay connected. And Bruce reached out to me, and COVID really stopped a lot of just the regular connections. And when I saw your post about Bobby B passing, so many memories came up, and most of those memories for me was when I first started coaching at Hood College and being at Band the Brick Summer League down at St. Albans, and just seeing you guys, and Bobby had just a way of making you feel welcome. And I reached out to my old boss, Tom Dickman, And, he shared a story that coaches will laugh at, but people might think are mean. But we're recruiting players, and he's down at St. Albans, and we're like, Bob, you think we can get in with, so and so? Hey, Tom, nobody pays St. Albans money to send a kid to Hood. That's funny because it's true, and it wasn't a mean thing. That's his wicked sense of humor, and it was so dry. And man, he just every time I see him, he cracked me up.
It was honest.
And that's the kind of guy he was, and it's sad that he's not here. But man, as you see from just us catching up, and folks, I haven't seen my friend Bruce in a minute. That a smile immediately comes over, our faces, talking about Coach B. Bruce, anything else you want to add in this segment just about Bobby? Because we're going to take some time and swap some lies and tell some stories.
Well, the great thing for me is hearing stories like you talk about Tom Dickman, and catching up with Butch McAdams the other day. He's a fellow podcaster, coach, and he and Bob, they coached together back at St. Albans. That's how Butch got his start, and they were like rivals to like the Cowboys and dare say Redskins, right? So Butch was telling a story. Bob used to run a concession stand, okay? And there was a time period that Tacoma Academy, Tamir Goodman. Do you remember this guy?
Yes. Yes.
AKA the Jewish Jordan.
The Jewish Jordan.
You got it, folks. You got it. So there's this makeup game at American University where Tacoma Academy, where Jewish Jordan went, played Butch McAdams and Murray team. And Murray had Tony Dobbins on the team. Murray was good. So they played at American U, and a big crowd comes, and Bobby Brown gets the concession stand. And so Butch's team wins. After the game, Butch comes on by, and Bobby and he are talking, and Bobby says, McAdams, you had a good day today. And then he opens up the cash box and takes out a whole big wad of 20s and puts it in his pocket. But I had a better one.
And yes, that is a perfect close, because I told you, Bobby was just quite a character. And when we get back on the other side, we're going to share some more stories and really get into just what a good person he is and how much he helped, not just players, folks, but the coaching community as well. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
Why should student athletes use the CKA SAVE Project academic and athletic consulting services? Over the past 15 to 20 years, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, business organizations, and others have increased their use of consulting services to improve their decision-making processes and results. Over the same time, the athletic and academic landscape has changed for high school and college student athletes as the NCAA has raised initial academic eligibility requirements for student athletes while decreasing the number of transfer restrictions. Former college student athletes have noted that they were academic and athletically unprepared for the rigors of college. Let the CKA SAVE Project's close to 30 years of academic and athletic experience help guide student athletes to increase success as we work to help student athletes achieve the goal of obtaining a college degree. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. And again, on our Find the Balance Friday episode, it is great to catch up with Bruce Kelley, head coach at the Potomac School.
Bullis School.
I'm sorry. The Bullis School. Whoa, can't do that one. The Bullis School in Potomac, Maryland. Shout out to Levi. I saw one of his assistants at DC Live. That's where I got that in. But we're talking about Coach Bobby Brown, who recently passed. And I'd like Coach Kelley to continue and share another story, if you could grace us with that, sir.
Well, it's many places to start, right, with Bobby B. But touching more on the piece that Coach Brown loved loved to coach the overachiever, the guy, like not so much the superstar, but just the boy that wasn't blessed with the superior size, superior strength, superior speed, which most of us are, right? And just he would just find ways to bring out the best in that particular child, and did it for my own son, my own family. So it just makes me think what he's done for over 40 years of coaching kids. But Keith, what really, you've talked to coaches, what comes to mind when you play Bobby B's team, he's gonna play a different defense, some sort of a junk defense, box and one, triangle and two, tandem and three, just weird things. And we would go into gyms and coaches would come up and say, "Oh, I remember you." Like Paul Stefano said, you put your boxed one of my worst player. He comes running by the bench and they go, "They're boxing one of me, coach." And DeStefano said, just get in the corner, just get in the corner, get out of the way. But he was just the king of just junking up the game. And Keith, you saw it. He would do anything that you're just not prepared for. So he's just different in his mind and his approach to the game.
Well, one of the things that I want to say as somebody who knew him, I've never had to go against him. We would just sit and talk shop, is the fact that he maximized potential. And that's why we wanted to recruit his players. And as you said, he was a teacher of the game. And a lot of that, not ever trying to be old man, get off my lawn, but we just watched an open period, and we'll talk about that in segment 3. And part of that was, I'm just not seeing the skill development today that I saw in just a few years ago. And a lot of that may have to do with COVID and all. I don't want to blame COVID for everything from the Lindbergh baby to JFK, but Bobby's players played fundamentally. They valued the basketball. They got great shots, not good shots. And that comes a lot from how he taught it. So fast forward to our relationship, and I'm in the gym watching Bullis, and he's your top assistant. So a lot of times you're coaching, and he's explaining to me what you guys are doing and how this guy does that, and how, so I'm talking to him more than anything because that's the gig. So, that's one of the things I'm gonna miss, is just being able to talk to him, and the conversations go all over the place. So, I wanted to give Mike an opportunity because he didn't know Coach B, but he knows that aspects of the teaching piece. And with it being Father's Day, Mike, can you shine a little light on just the important role coaches have in terms of teaching the game, and for athletics being paternal, so to speak?
Yeah, it's one thing as coaches, we wear a lot of hats. One, we're teachers, we're educators, so our lessons have to be well-rounded, because to in my particular experience, most of the kids I've had, I was a father figure for, and unknowingly to some, but it just happens because kids place you where they place you. But it's our responsibility to teach them the proper skills, techniques, also how to interact with people, how life is going to treat them. We become mentors even when we're not having those mentor conversations, because the kids are watching us no matter what. And I think it's the most important job you can have outside of being a parent, is being a coach. I think it's very, very, very important. I've had players who've, as we're doing this now, my phone's going off every 2 minutes to one of my former players. Happy Father's Day, coach. Happy Father's Day. Even some of the moms, 3 of the moms, you were his father. Like that's the way it is. So we owe a lot to our players who played before us and made us who we are. Good players make coaches look good. Great players make coaches look great. And then that relationship, the stronger that bond, the stronger, the harder they'll play for you, and the harder they work, the more you'll do for them to help them. So It's very important.
Well said,
And
Michael. Well
and,
said.
and I want to say to you, Bruce, I appreciate that you reached out and said, "Hey, I'd like this opportunity to talk about Bobby B," because as coaches, um, we often downplay our role, and we often downplay the impact that we have because you know we're, we're 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 supposed to be that way. We're educators, but to have an opportunity to celebrate a good man, somebody who was just good. He was good to people. He was a good person. He helped you, whether it was a ride home, whether it was a hot dog at the concession stand,
Yeah, you
which
gotta
I
pay for
had
that hot
many
dog
of
now.
them, which I had plenty of, or time for a young assistant to just, what did you see on that play? Bobby was that kind of coach to not say, here's what you should do and whatever. It was with that sly little grin. Well, what were you looking at? Before I say anything, what were you looking at? So I wanted to give you, just an opportunity as we wrap up this segment to, say any final words before we transition on the other side to current state of high school basketball, sir.
All good. You mentioned about his impact on coaches. So Bobby Brown is such a good coach that, at our practice, I had to give him his time to do things. And usually it's like a 1-2 press, or he was going to put in one of his defenses. And we've had some good players recently. And so coaches would come to our practices and he would always have a 15, 17-minute segment. And invariably I would see the college coach like writing notes the whole time while Bobby B was doing his segment of the practice. And they didn't have their pens out when they were doing my part of the practice, but they had, when his part of the practice, he was doing the segment out. And then after practice, they would come up and say, "Who was that guy? He's fantastic. I love him." Because he's just a coach's coach. He definitely wasn't dressed to impress. He was kind of offsetting, closed in fit, just kind of, he was there for ball and there for kids. So it's funny you say that, Keith, about coaching coaches. Yeah.
I'm sorry, fans. I'm laughing at the outfit because I'm trying not to do that, but Bruce is dead on with that. So thank you for coming on with that. And on our third and final segment, we're going to talk some local high school basketball and see what's going on while we have one of the best coaches in the DMV with us, Bruce Kelley. We'll be right back on the Ad Coaches Podcast.
Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project's book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success, is now available for purchase. The book serves as both a memoir of Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes numerous personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues, including former George Mason standout Follering Campbell. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back. This is how it's supposed to be. Welcome back to the Ad Coaches Podcast, Find the Balance Friday episode. And we're with Bruce Kelley, head coach of the Bullis School in Potomac, Maryland, for our national audience. So you can check them out, and Bruce will give you all the social media handles at the end of this segment. But Bruce, man, the OCP is starting to get back out there. Mike has continued to coach, and he's making his adjustments, but I'm starting to get back out after a personal sabbatical. And can you tell me, in your opinion, about the current state of high school basketball? You had 2 years of COVID. You had stop and start seasons. You got all kinds of stuff going on. I'm educating myself too. What's going on out there? Tell me what you're thinking, sir.
I think kids need high school sports and coaches more than they've ever needed them in their lives.
Yes, sir.
Just the structure of sports, the community of sports. I'll say the discipline of having a coach who loves them, like Mike was talking about earlier, but also is going to hold them to a standard. But in a world that some other people don't want that high school coach to have that same role, because there's a youth sports professionalism out there that people are making money off of high school students and high school athletes, whereas we're part of the education process. We're that sixth period of the day or seventh period of the day. So there's some forces working against us, but we're needed more than ever before.
Yes, sir.
That was really well said, Mike. Any thoughts on that?
He hit the nail right on the head with that one, man. It's all
Kelly, clip that one, buddy.
all these, yeah, like that one's going to be definitely one of our advertising segments, because all the restrictions about why we can't, and that's why I always wanted to get, like, you're at a school that I really, really, like, at one point wanted to be like at a private school, because I felt like you had more, you could do more with the kids, whereas public school is so restricted. I always look when those jobs come open, especially those WCAC jobs and the independent school jobs, I can't help but go and look and see, oh yeah, wonder who's applying, because I always want to get my resume ready for that, because you guys really get to make a difference more than we do in the public schools. We do it, but we do it without, a lot of people notice what we're doing, because
Smoke and mirrors, baby.
Yeah,
Smoke
because
and
they don't want you. They really don't want you to do it. Like you say, there's a big amateurism is definitely a big business. It is.
So as we transition, Coach, how is recruiting now? And again, I'm so happy. I'm like giddy, because these are things we would just talk about when we were out. Recruiting now, as a coach, I can't lie. I'm probably going to the portal first too, because if I got 2 years left on my contract, do I want to convince Christopher Tracy to be a better player, or do I want to just get somebody that just played 30 games of college basketball and I can look at them play against comparable competition and so forth? Didn't say anything was right or wrong, but it's just I can totally see it. So from the high school coach's perspective, and you coach in one of the best private schools in the state of Maryland, in the Mid-Atlantic region, you do.
Definitely.
There's no sugarcoating that. What are you seeing in terms of recruiting? Changes? Is it the same? Just what are your thoughts on that while we have you here?
I think it's the dual thing, the portal, which is, the intention of it is to give college athletes opportunity, because coaches can leave and they were sort of bound to stay. But the second thing, the NCAA granted athletes an extra year of eligibility due to COVID. So you had an influx of seniors graduating high school and junior college players going from their schools, but there was no exit. All the college athletes weren't leaving. So it's supply and demand. There just weren't enough spots. We had 2 players this past year that were, in normal years, would be Division I players, but nothing was happening. So they both went the Division II route. And for the first time in my life, and advising kids and families, it's usually being it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year
decision.
And you can't say that, at least these past 2 years. You say, okay, this is what you have best now. Now, if you want to change this, you have to go and be great where you are, and then maybe something might change. So it's much more short term. My hope, men, is that once the COVID sit out year or extra year it leaves, and now we get more to a more balanced number of athletes in there, that it sort of levels out and we get back to normal. But these past 2 years, the athletes were certainly impacted.
And Mike and I actually spoke on one of our Throwdown Thursday College Edition shows about how the market has a way of fixing itself. And I think, that's something you are speaking to with recruiting. What advice, if any, Bruce, would you give the high school athlete, their parents, even their coaches. But I'd like for you to talk to the high school athletes across the country in terms of, hey guys, here's where we are. So they're sitting in your office. Well, what would you generally say to a current high school rising senior or rising junior in terms of college basketball recruiting
Gotcha.
these days?
All right. This is an open-ended question, right? So generally, the advice would be is go where the head coach loves you. The assistant coach, he's wonderful and he's probably seen you more, but he's not in charge of your playing time and he's really not in charge of your life. And if he's being honest with you, he doesn't plan to be there for your 4-year career. So whatever relationship you establish, it must be with the head coach, because that person more than likely he's your boss. He is your ultimate boss. And the number one determining factor in the workforce is, do you like your boss, really? And so that would be my one thing. Get to know the head coach and make sure the head coach values you.
Wow. That's powerful. Mike, any thoughts before we close out with Coach Kelley?
Yeah, I would like to ask Coach Kelley, when we talk about recruiting and we talk about it getting to that next level, but I would like to hear from recruiting. I don't want to hear about college. I want to hear about you and at your school specifically. What's, how has that changed, if at all, in recent years, even pre-COVID, because athletes have changed. I'm in a public school. We don't recruit, but, yeah, we don't. You don't. Some people can, but not Mike Francis. Boy, I drink a cup of coffee. They want to know if it's decaf or whatever. But yeah, if you could share that with us, I appreciate it.
Sure thing. I think certainly in some leagues that the recruiting, you'll go to see there's active recruiting in the middle schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
So coaches are out and about. Fortunate for me as a high school basketball coach, I don't really need many players. And so I would say 95% of the recruiting that we do at Bullis for basketball is referrals.
Mm-hmm.
I just meet Coach Franchise. Coach knows a family, interested in private schools. Hey, I met that Bullis guy. Give him a call. So mine are more referrals, and usually people, like any referral, do I like the person who's referring the person to me?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then once we get to that stage that they are referred to me, you got to be able to play. You got to be able to do the books. And then how does the kid carry himself and how do the parents carry themselves? Because I love coaching too much to have some parent or somebody I don't enjoy coaching in my system.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back to your point, we have a little more control over our roster. And as a public school, it's open doors, whoever walks in.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of wrap it up, ours at Bullis is far more referral based, that families have an interest to coming to Bullis. Mm-hmm. Other schools are far more active, and they are in the hunt for 7th and 8th grade talent. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm going to get a bonus question out of you because I have a rising 8th grader currently in the public school system. Man, I'm not putting anything over because that's pressure he's a football and a basketball player, and we can talk offline about that. And he's in French immersion, but I'm not advocating. But anyway, what advice would you give me? Because I am in that boat. He is going into 8th grade, and I am a parent. And although I am a public school person, we're open to any and everything. So not just Bullis, but what would you give advice to somebody like me? Hey, you're a parent, you have a kid who has some talent that you like to cultivate, and here are some potential opportunities. Anything you'd let me know at an open house, sir?
Well, as basketball coach, again, right, that we're not better coaches, we just have better opportunities. And this past weekend, we participated in something called the DMV Live. You guys referenced that you went down to the DC event. In Maryland, the Public School Athletic Association has not granted its athletes a chance to participate in this event.
Totally
whereas
messed
the
up.
private schools all are participating in this event. And I don't throw that out there to throw shade at the public schools, but the kids all know that the private school athletes just played in front of, like our athletes at Bullis just played in front of, I'm going to say 150 coaches. If I'm wrong, I
That
could be
is
wrong.
a safe estimate, sir. Somebody
Yes.
who's there.
They're all there, and we have chances that we can travel, participate out of the area tournaments, play against some other highly ranked teams, and so unfortunately, the kids all see that, and the families see that, and they all want to naturally play against the best. Some of those great Montgomery County teams with like Darren McClinton and who was his backcourt mate at
Chris
Springfield?
McGuthrie.
Chris McGuthrie and Silas Chung was at Magruder. And I know I'm missing out a cast of
Riley
characters.
Ainge was at Pate Branch, but I'm not a mark for Pate Branch.
There we go, Riley Ainge. It's very difficult to see that now just because of the changes in the landscape. And once again, I'm not putting anyone down or saying we're better. Just we have better opportunities.
I will. Don't worry, Coach. I'll put them down for you.
Being on both ends, and I will, make sure I share this. The Maryland Public Secondary School Association does not currently allow high school public schools to participate in these events due to Maryland state law. The Code of Maryland Regulations, COMAR, has something on the books, but it hasn't been voted on yet. It is anticipated, according to my sources, to be approved by next year. But as Bruce so eloquently said, they're playing games now. So, yes, I just wanted to make sure we let folks know that there is a law that is coming through. It just hasn't been voted on yet. So if you want to be mad at anyone, be mad at your state senators. So Bruce, can you share not only your social media handles, but Bullis if you'd like to? And then after you do that, please give us some final thoughts on Coach Brown to close the show.
Sure thing. The one that folks should follow is at Bullis Athletics. That is the school Twitter handle.
And our producer will put that on the screen, sir.
Perfect. And then final thoughts on Bobby B. Thank you. I think so many of us coaches work in anonymity sometimes. And it's just a chance to reflect and tell some stories. And I even heard one last one that like Dick Myers, a longtime coach at Gonzaga, was coaching at the Army Prep School at the time. And Bob Brown went to Bullis, and Bullis was the Navy Prep School back in 1968, 69. And so Dick Myers, who I coached for, coached against Bobby Brown, who coached with me. And Dick Myers referenced Bobby Brown to Coach Bob Knight, who was at Army at that time. And just the small world of what we do and how it's just so interconnected over the years. And just want to thank you to help celebrate Bobby Brown's life, because I truly love that man.
And Coach B would have loved the fact that he is the one that brought my friend of 20 years and I back together. So any opportunity to talk to you, Bruce, we're going to take advantage of. And I want to thank you for giving us the privilege and the honor, and you trusted us and you trusted our relationship enough that we would hopefully do right by Coach, and I thank you for that. Mike, anything to add before we wrap up, sir?
No, Coach, I do appreciate you, coming on with us and giving us this great insight. And I remember you talk about Coach Meyer. I had to sit back for a second. He gave me one of the worst ass whoopings of my life as a coach. We used to play in that the Nike Towson Catholic tip-off, and which they mistreat us public schools. Friday night at 8:00 we played Paul Six, and then Saturday morning at 10:00 we played Gonzaga. So Gonzaga put it on us a little bit. We weren't ready for that. It was our first 2 games of the season. I was like, here you go. Here. Game 1 and game 2, you got Paul Six and Gonzaga, like at a little public school up in Glen Burnie, Maryland. Take that for you.
Thanks, Coach. We'll see you next year.
Yeah, he did pull me to the side after, and then the next year they recruited. No, later they recruited when they was recruiting my son to come there. I sat down with him and Steve, and he was like, "Look, Mike, let me let's talk about a little zone defense," and then started laughing. I was like, you should have played a little zone against us. I was like, oh, okay, all right.
I love it.
Great people.
So, fans, on behalf of our good friend Bruce Kelley and my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, I am Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and/or watching the Odd Coaches podcast. And we will see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care and tell an inappropriate joke on behalf of Bobby B. All right.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.